flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Well, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
I'd move we approve the amended agenda as printed.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Approve the minutes from 12/11/17.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from 12/17 as printed.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
General public concerns. I believe, Bill, you want to speak about a tile issue? Your daughter?
You go ahead, but you don't know all things.
Well, we just feel that the county should maintain the tile in the ditch, so that we're not going to the expense of running a tile clear from the main up to the field, which they have to go all the way, because that's the way the tile are sloped now to go to there, so they have to go to where the outlet leaves the field now. And I think that, I don't know what you couldn't understand.
Yeah, I see that you got this printed here.
It says, county will maintain the drainage district within its right of way.
Okay. We'll investigate it a little further. I was talking on advice from our attorney about that, 'cause I brought it up to him. And the issues, like I mentioned to you before, about that tile, it's right on the edge of the road in the shoulder. It's not in a good spot to keep it there. So we'd prefer to have it out in the field due to all the utilities that are already in the road. I don't know, is Ben still there to heat?
Yeah.
How much is in that road ditch?
There's 3 or 4 utilities in that road ditch right
Well,
now.
let's get to one.
The tile that nostrums are hooked into was put in the 30s or 40s. It was originally installed to drain the roadbed. Back in the end of October, beginning of November, the county dug, we dug 4 potholes in about a 500-foot span. Had a jetter come in, and we spent half a day jetting and cleaning out that 500-foot span. So it is open and operating right now, but, you know, like we told in the past, we don't guarantee that it's a suitable outlet.
But if it was for the road bed, why didn't it go east also? Because it's lower east or as low east as it is west, but not west of the field, so
I can tell you, before my time.
before my time too.
Yeah. It probably went up to the old county home or something at that time, I don't know.
So, let me understand, what's the county's position right now?
Right, I recommend it to nostrums, if you're gonna do a bunch of tiling, don't hook to something that was put in the 1930s, because it's plugged up once before, we cleaned it, now 10 to 15 years later, we had to clean it a second time. I said, you have the right to go to that county main. I mean, then you have a brand-new outlet to a county main that is serviced. To me, it was foolish to hook into something that doesn't work. That was my position, Nostrum. And at that time, our attorney told me that it would be Nostrum's expense. It is allowable to fix it, but at his expense is what the attorney told me.
So you don't think the county has any responsibility to maintain that? Is that what you're saying?
We have no need for it. That was back years ago when the road was probably much lower.
It was before it was paved. It was for, you know, horse and buggy days is what those were originally installed for.
But if I
It's not a suitable outlet
understand
now.
correctly, if they've got it, they have to maintain it.
Well, you have the right to come on my property and fix a tile that's broken at your expense. We're a downstream property owner like anyone else.
So it's, who do you think the tile belongs to? That's the first question.
The tile is ours. It's run right there, but we don't guarantee it.
In the past, we haven't been, are you saying that we can go in there and fix tile if it's broke?
With a permit. But we've fixed this tile in this location, and we've done it twice in 15 years I've been here.
Well, I think the Iowa drainage manual manual says it's mandatory. It comes to
Well,
maintain.
just looking at that a little bit there, I'm gonna talk to the attorney about it and see what he says.
Well, I don't even know if that's, I'm not sure where my dad got that.
Oh,
I looked at
okay.
the Iowa Law Drainage Manual, which I thought you guys kind of consider the Bible.
Yeah,
And it says, as far as I can tell, that parallel lines, just like I read it to you.
Roads that, lines that perpendicular the roadway, I believe we have to.
maintain, the ones that cross the road.
The ones that cross the road, yes. The
There's no
ones that
question
run.
about that. It's the parallel lines that are the question, and in the right-of-way. It says the code doesn't really address the responsibilities, but if deterioration has occurred naturally, maintenance costs could be the responsibility of the drainage district, but you do have to maintain it, because it says, within the public right-of-way, the controlling agency is responsible for maintenance. So it's a question of payment maybe, but I think you have to keep it. I don't think you can abandon it.
Well, we didn't abandon it, we spent a couple $1,000 of county money to fix it.
I know, but you can't say you're not going to in the future, that's abandonment.
Well,
We're just saying if you're gonna.
I
if
just
you're gonna run a whole
recommended to
bunch
the
of
non
tile,
that I won't hook to something that
you just
doesn't
hook
work.
it out.
And he does have the right to go to the county main, and if I was tiling my farm, I'd want it to go to the county main rather than hook to something that isn't gonna work in the future. And then have this problem down the road again.
Rick
That was my,
makes a good valid point. The question on this is the tile that, along the right-of-way, is it actually a drainage district tile? Is it a drainage
No.
district tile, or is it a road, you know,
It's a road draining.
a road drainage
5-inch
tile?
clay tile.
A road
Like
drainage
80
tile,
Years ago. But
which
there's a-
not-
There's a county main about 250 feet east of the fence line, where.
That is a drainage.
Mr. Nave's property.
that is a drainage district.
Right.
So that's
So
a
they would have-
clarification.
They would have to run their tile
one of them, too.
through Mr. Nave's field about 250 feet.
Which speaks back to what Rick was mentioning, that is the drainage district main tile.
It's 30 feet over to the tile from the fence line.
30.
Excuse me, 30 rods.
30 rods.
30 rods.
And I think my point is, as a county, you cannot just abandon a tile.
We didn't abandon it.
Okay, but you can't say you're not gonna fix it in the future, that's my
No,
point.
I told him, at that point, our attorneys told him that it would be at his cost that we would fix it. That's where I said we weren't gonna abandon it. I said it would be at his cost, and that's what, from the advice of our attorney. That's what he
Okay, I
told
see
me.
what you're saying.
I didn't say we're gonna abandon it, but if it plugs up again and we have to clean it, it'll be at his cost. So why would you wanna hook to something that isn't good when you have a suitable outlet 30 rods away, which you have the right to go hook to?
Because you don't wanna go through all the hassle that is gonna be involved.
It isn't a hassle
Well, it's not hassle for you, how come it's a hassle for us always?
to have, I mean, you're getting someone to lay tile to your land, which you'll benefit from. I don't understand the hassle.
No, we won't. And why is it the rules are always different for us than for everybody else?
I guess I don't understand that part, but
I just don't. So what you're saying is, Nostrum could hook up to that if they want to.
yeah.
But you don't wanna pay for fixing it ever.
According to our drainage attorney, he said it would be at their cost.
Okay.
We agreed to pay for it this time. And he advised me to express that to the Nostrums, that it really should be their cost. According to the way he read the drainage laws, the drainage laws are really gray in a lot of
They are.
areas. And you can get a lot of different interpretations from every different lawyer you go to, you'll get a different interpretation of it. But the one attorney we used, we use him often, that was his interpretation of it, and that's what I advised the Nostrums of. And to me, it just makes sense. Don't hook to something that doesn't work that well, when you have the right to hook to something that does work and will be maintained.
But Rick, I don't know whether they plan on doing more tiling there or not, but right now, they won't have to spend a dime to leave it the way it is. And it will drain the farm.
For a few years, until it plugs up again.
Ben, do you know where that plug was, what end that plug was on? Do we know where to dig in case it happens again to fix?
Well, we got a 500-foot window of where, yeah.
Well, yeah, but you blew it all the way down toward the outlet, but the last time was the first time that it went through, right? The water did not go through that line. Bud told me that you had to suck the water out of the hole every time to fill it back in, so it wasn't running until you got to the last hole, is that correct?
We dug 4 different locations and found, blockage anywhere from 20 to 100%. We did what we could with county forces, and like I said, we had a power jetter come in, and he jetted 500-600 foot of tile and cleaned it out. So yes, it is a suitable outlet right now,
Okay.
but if I was gonna say.
But I think Phil was asking, is the plug further east or further west? Where we were digging? I
The
think
plug
that-
was between hole 3 and hole 4, I believe.
From the east, going from the main further west?
It'd be between the 3rd and 4th hole to the east.
East
where we
side
found
that he was,
Okay,
yeah.
so closer to
So it was,
the main.
yeah, it was on Phil, it would've been on Phil's property, I guess. on that side.
Adjacent to your property, yeah. That's where,
Okay.
that's where they thought the plug might have been.
Thank you.
All right, well,
So let me ask one more question.
sure.
That tile has been used to drain nostrum for the past since the 1930s or 40s?
I don't know when they hooked into it. It was
Yeah, there's
before I
nothing
was here.
recorded when they hooked into it, which would have been nice.
Yeah, so, but it has been a long time, it's been
Yeah.
over 10 years for sure, because you cleaned it out, or you said you cleaned it out like 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 to-
So, they have a right to rely on that tile working, right? I mean,
For now, but if you're gonna spend a bunch of money putting new tile in your field, you wanna guarantee yourself an outlet.
Mhm.
And if you can guarantee yourself an outlet by running 150 feet direct to the main, to me, it makes sense to do it that way,
but if you've already got one that exists, why does that make sense?
because.
The location of it is terrible. It's this far off the blacktop. And also, when it gets down further, it's probably underneath the blacktop. I mean, if you have to dig it up and clean it, it's gonna be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to replace it even, because you gotta tear up the road. That's foolish.
It's foolish for you.
Well, I think that, I see this as, I understand where you're coming from on this. It's a tile that's been there for a long, long time, it's been hooked up, why don't you maintain it? I think the differentiation is, it is a road tile, yes, the road tiles, and there's other ones in the county, I'm sure, are maintained to the degree that it's needed for the secondary road. Unfortunately, good, bad, or indifferent, this is not a drainage district tile. It's a secondary roads tile, it's a county tile, yes, but people always say, well, is it a county tile? Generally speaking, they mean, is it a drainage district tile? There's a difference. So, if this was a drainage district tile, it would be fixed, it would be maintained, that is the responsibility of whatever drainage district. This is not a quote-unquote drainage district tile. This
So
is,
it's a county tile.
it's theoretically, it's the county's tile, but...
And so your position, if I understand correctly, is the county has no obligation to maintain it.
Well, given the fact that it's the county's tile, and if it is put in back 100 years ago on a gravel road to maintain some drainage so it wasn't a swamp, and that's not the case any longer because the roadbed was built up, it's a blacktop road, it's not necessary. Theoretically, being it was put into service and maintain the road, if that's no longer needed, the county wouldn't theoretically have to maintain it, because it's not detrimental to what it was built to maintain, which would have been the road.
I understand your point, and not that I necessarily disagree, but I haven't found anything that says that the county does not have to maintain tiles within the right.
Well, there again, bear in mind, drainage district that happens to get into the right-of-way, yes, because that's a drainage district. So the drainage district, we would say, well, this tile happens to go along a right-of-way, and like Ben said, you could either get a permit to have a contractor or someone go in and fix the tile, or quite possibly you could have the secondary roads department go in and fix the tile. There is lots of drainage district tiles in right-of-ways that have been fixed, and they will be fixed, and they will be maintained.
Right.
This is a little separate issue. I know it's confusing, it's very frustrating, because, well, this is a county tile, and why don't you maintain it? It's a county tile, yes, but it's not a drainage district tile. There's your difference.
Okay, I get that. I fully understand that, I'll even agree for sake of argument. What makes it so that a county does not have to maintain its tile in its right of way?
The fact that it's not affecting anything as far as right-of-way and/or road maintenance.
But an upper landowner is connected onto it and has relied on it.
That's fine, and like all of us sitting here, no one was alive when that was probably done.
That's what I mean. Our position is, we can't say you can't, you gotta unhook from it. We're not saying that.
No.
I just told him, it's not a good idea to hook to it, because it doesn't work most of the time.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Let's say that you hook to a tile that I have,
Yep.
and, you drain, it exits the field through a tile that I have.
Yeah.
Do I have no obligation to maintain that tile?
Well, if I was to hook to your tile, it would be a written-up agreement, and it'd be recorded in the courthouse, and it'd state who fixes it. And we have no record of this being recorded.
Well, some do and some don't. There are those out there that don't have those agreements, and I don't know what they do. But my question is, if it's not in writing, do I not have an obligation to?
You have the right to come onto the property and fix it at your expense. That's the way our attorney figures it.
Which would be actually similar to a private out in between neighboring fields.
They say we're just like any other private citizen. If we're another farmer against farmer, it's the same theory. You have the right to come in and fix it, make it operating at your expense.
So what you're saying is I don't have an obligation to maintain it?
No.
You can come fix it, but
I'll just give you a
I get
synopsis
it.
here. Say you have a field, and you put it into a 15-year CRP or whatever, or you just abandon the land, making that prairie pothole, and you disconnect your tile. Your person upstream says, you can't do that, right? If he's hooked to it.
Right.
But he has the right to go around it and rehook it, but you don't have to pay for that if you want a prairie pothole on your line, but he has the right to go around that pothole and hook up to it at his expense.
Okay.
And we're just being treated just like anybody else.
So you're saying that the county is acting as a private citizen, they don't have any government obligation?
It's different when you're looking at the lateral tiles. I'm just going from the advice of our attorney.
Okay.
And this, to me, I don't know why you're arguing this point, because you're getting a tile put into your property at no expense to you.
But we don't need it. That's what we've always had a problem with, this drainage issue.
Mhm.
We are drained, we are well drained, we don't need more tile. So
Yeah.
nobody's doing us a favor by bringing us any tile.
Okay?
And we have a right not to want it. I mean, it's all
Yeah.
around, we can choose not to want it.
You can have a right, but that
Otherwise, that's
doesn't mean
our
you're
choice.
not gonna get it.
Right, wrong, or otherwise, that's our choice.
Count out other things, but.
And so, basically, if I understand correctly, your position is that as a government entity, you don't have any obligation to maintain your right-of-way.
Yes, we have a
Yes.
huge obligation to maintain the right-of-way.
Right-of-way tile, I'm sorry.
If need
No,
be.
if the tile is no longer needed, we could go out and crush the thing. We don't need it. But they have the right to go around us and hook on at their expense.
So
Just,
you give them a right-of-way permit to go through their right-of-way.
no, we won't. Because they have to ask us for a permit, and we'll deny it due to all the utilities in the ditch.
Why would you want the headache of that?
Why do you want
If you
the
were,
headache?
if you were adding a private tile, you certainly wouldn't be
When
tiling
they
and
have
saying, can
other
I run my
options."
tile in the right-of-way? It would be kind of senseless.
No,
I mean, if there's no other option for them,
Yeah.
but when there's other options that are available, that are better, cheaper, and just all around better than going in a ditch that's full of utilities, it just doesn't make sense.
You know,
I mean, we can beat this to,
Yeah, no, and
And when
I don't want to beat it forever.
I know.
when we came to the realization this was not a drainage district tile, it does alter it.
Yeah.
If this was a drainage district tile, I think all of us would fight tooth and nail to maintain that tile, to repair the tile, and in a drainage district, maybe even improve the tile.
Right.
But it is not a drainage district tile.
I
Is
agree.
the unfortunate
If it was,
problem.
we'd get it out of the right of way and put it out in the field.
Yes, we-
Where
I
it
understand
belongs.
that. I just don't understand how you think you could not pay attention to a tile that you have that an upper landowner is draining. That's what I don't get.
Mhm.
Okay.
One thing for clarification too, guys, I keep hearing about utility lines down the right of way. That's true. We've got them in the field too.
Yeah.
There's one line in the field.
Oh, yeah, they're all.
We're well aware of that.
Which we're gonna be working around too, so.
Mhm.
Theoretically, if they discover them correctly, the bottom of the ditch has nothing in it. It's both on both sides.
Both sides. Okay.
For what that's worth.
Well, thank you for your concerns.
I just, drainage law.
It is, it's fuzzy. It's fuzzy and very gray. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I beat dead horse.
You're all right.
That's okay.
Thank you.
All right, Alyssa?
Okay. So just a quick reminder, we do our, biennial reports on even years. So this is an odd year, so this is just a quick snapshot, of our previous year. So I'll run through it really quickly, and maybe just allow time for questions, because I know you guys are busy. What we put in here, is our strategic plan. We go through that in the off years, largely just to show you guys what our projects are for the coming years. We're fortunate enough, most of our programs and projects, are quite publicized, so, you're aware of most of them. So we put that in there, and that is updated. You'll see the status on that. What I really want to draw your attention to, are just a few things that I think make us, set us apart from other economic development organizations. So as you know, community daycare, talent development, and our high school internship programs are beyond our core economic development programs. And there are things that we have added into our DNA that are not standard programs and initiatives in an economic development program. And so we're working quite hard on developing Humboldt County. We had a consultant come in, about a month ago, and evaluate our programs and our initiatives, and what payback is what we called it, they have to Humboldt County. And we are one of the only counties our size in the nation that has a talent development program from K-12. So I think that's something that we need to be proud of as we're looking to develop that talent. So in 2016 alone, and you'll see in your packet, 2016 to 2021, and then there's another sheet that's a cumulative overview. So since 2016, so just 2 short years, we've created more than 115 new jobs, retained over 130, injected more than $18 million into Humboldt County, and generated more than $14 million in additional property tax valuation. And so one thing that we've decided to do since 2010, when I started, we only count projects that we touch. So if we don't touch it, we don't count it. So an example of that would be, and obviously Rick knows that, Harbor Hank, we didn't have a role in, so we don't touch that job creation and that taxable valuation. So when we report these are numbers based on projects that we have some sort of connection to. And then obviously the cumulative statistics we've been collecting just in 2010, and I think you guys can see those yourselves. We measure our success largely on capital injection and additional property tax valuation. 8 years ago when I started, it was more on jobs, but with talent development as an issue, we've been fortunate enough that we've tracked capital injection. So $38 million has been invested in Humboldt County since 2010, and $26 million additional property tax valuation. So we've been successful, there's no doubt about that. You guys read about it and heard about it, but just a quick summary for you. Our increase is not increasing from last year. It has stayed the same. You can see our budget, which is really slim. So you guys can, you're used to major budgets, you guys can do that math in about 30 seconds, I'm sure. And our largest expense is human capital, as with any organization. That's where we spend most of our dollars. But I think we get a good return for that. That human capital is what drives the programs and projects. So to keep you on schedule, I would entertain any questions you might have for me.
Well, and your recent statement, so that, yes, your biggest expense, it says staff wages.
Mhm.
How big of a staff do you have?
Just me and I have the part-time person,
So, 2 people,
1.5.
1.5?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And who, is it strictly from the, Development Association paying the $60,000 staff wages?
Right.
So, okay.
Yep.
That half-time person just came on board recently too.
What's that?
Your part-time person just recently came on board.
Yeah, she started in April. Yeah, that's been a good addition for us. I'm sure Bruce can say for some of those projects that we get involved in that aren't necessarily part of our DNA, but are important at the time, it does help allocate time, so.
And how many hours does part-time person work then?
She just works 8 to noon.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True part-time.
yeah. Okay, well, I think you do a wonderful job. You've done brought a lot of new business to the community. I know it's a lot of hard work, and you're always out there beating the bushes for industry to come to Humboldt. And, I know you do work with the outlying communities also, because she's available for everybody in the county.
Yep, and
not-
we do have
not
one
just
active
here.
project, that at this point is still confidential, in Laverne, so,
Mhm.
yeah.
So,
Yep,
any of
she
the
does.
outlying communities there, her assets are available to them.
Yeah, and I think
And
one of
she's
the
very
important
good.
things, absolutely, like we talked about with any project, is really taxable valuation, because that makes all of us grow, right? That
Mhm.
affects the hospital, that affects the school district. I mean, when we grow the tax base, literally every taxing entity benefits from that.
Yep.
So I think that helps as well.
And I like that point, the outlying areas, I mean, it's the county at
Yeah.
large. Melissa, do you get in contact with, say, for the sake of argument, like the mayors of town, so that they know that if they have a question or need some resources, that you have made them aware of this?
Yeah, so, I'm fortunate enough that I've been here long enough that most people know me, that they can pick up the phone and call. But what we try to do about every 2 or 3 years, so we just did this about 1.5 years ago, is go out to actually all the city clerks, whether they're part-time, full-time, paid, not paid, and just visit with them about growth. Obviously, one thing you may not know is I was on the committee that toured CDBG applications, and so we worked really intensely with them at that point, because nearly all of them applied for CDBG funding for water and sewer. But we encourage them, so the problem is capital, right? Because if a business comes, they want land that's already shovel-ready, that already has utilities. And so what we do is share with them what that takes to create like a micro-industrial park. We are required through the state to list our buildings and sites on a state database called LOIS. And so we do send that information out to the counties every year when we do our LOIS input, so that they can put their, even if it's just one building that they might have available, they can put that information on that, or we'll put it on there for them. So even if they don't have a full-fledged industrial park with 30 acres, even if they have Johnny's willing to sell this portion, we can put that on there. So the only thing it does require is that utilities are to the site. So that does challenge things a little bit, because in outlying areas, sometimes that isn't the case. They don't necessarily have water.
Right, well, that's the thing, I mean, it is a very rural county, obviously, that we live in, but just so that people are aware of the city clerks, the mayors, and that, and amongst other things that you do in the, economic development, so that it is because sometimes the cities feel that, wow, there's stuff going on and we're not really aware of it,
Yeah.
or we're not informed, but it does sound like you're doing a pretty good job of keeping them up to
we
speed
try
on
really
it.
hard. The hard part in their defense comes in, yes, I want growth, I don't have the capital to put water, sewer, make sure gas
Right.
and electric is to this parcel so that it can be sold. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. What we have done differently, so we focus just on major manufacturing, with the exception of outside of Humboldt proper. So outside of Humboldt proper, we will do anything. So the Laverne project is not anywhere near.
Right, so there is other things other than a miniature industrial park in Laverne or any other little town in Humboldt County.
We've helped restaurant in Renwick,
There you
we've
go.
helped the locker in Renwick.
Yeah, so those sort of things that are smaller scale, but yet still very important to
Right,
small
so we
communities.
do step outside of our standard practice,
Good.
let's call it, for outside of Humboldt, we'll help them.
Good. Well, that was the point, and that you will, and that they're aware, and, because that's good that, you know, we need to keep the county at large.
Boat locker when it burned down, you're still working on that project, I think.
Yep, we did that project, we did the restaurant one, with this one is a unique one. But to that point, the next mayor of Laverne, I think, starts January, he's the one that called. And so, just to give you, I mean, I'm old news, so it's like, oh, Alyssa, you know, so we already had those connections with the
Good.
communities that, because I've been here so long, just call for County Development is how it's worked thus far. And it's
Well, never, you know, want to assume anything that people do know, so that make sure you
Yeah.
keep them aware, because there is some little things, but they could be very good things that you might be able to help them out with.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very, well, that's good.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melissa.
We'll take your, in consideration for budget time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, looks like we're going into drainage next.
Motion to go to drainage.
Second. Oh, whatever.
All in favor of going into drainage?
Aye.
We are in drainage, motion carries.
Good. You might want to keep an eye on Mike Worthington, but he was good. He might have had a couple of Christmas spirit before he got there. That's not gonna say. He was a right jolly little elf, Mike was. He does, he had a good time. It was fun, it was fun. Macy just loved it, just absolutely loved it. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Quite a place if you've not been there.
Yeah, I haven't been there for years. We
Okay,
took our
ready
kids
for your
when they
coffee?
were little. Was it 36?
Yeah, 36 years. I think the one started in 82.
Well, Derek was born in 84, and Nathan was born in 88, so it was pretty new when they were
Yeah.
little. And they always took them.
Rick made that today, I
More
just
than-
put the water on.
More than once, you know, when they were little.
If
And
I
my
don't
nieces
care for
and
coffee.
nephews. But, so now we're taking the grandkids. Please, if you're foreign, I will make note, put your name in the paper. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, Dave.
That's what we're there for.
I think the littler kids just think it's just wonderful.
Good morning, Mr. Hopper.
Thank you very much.
Officially here any moment.
Okay.
Some copies for somebody.
Hmm.
8125.
You got an autograph card sent to the courthouse.
What?
Somebody sent me my football card. Signed to the courthouse.
Oh, that's kinda
Okay, you ready, Trish?
cool. Yipper.
Okay, we have DD 125, the continuation of the classification hearing. We had an objection to the classification. The benefit commissioners, they took a look at it a second time. Eric and I sat in so we'd understand it a little better, their reasonings. And do you wanna take it from here?
Yes, I'll summarize, what we arrived at. Following our initial, conversations, we did get together, with the commissioners, and like Rick said, he and Eric were able to be there. Things we looked at, were mostly involving the Nave property. They had several parcels. We went through our typical procedure for putting points on them. One consideration that the commissioners may look at, should be looked at harder, was the slope. We had to keep it really deep to serve, some of the properties further south. This is one of those areas where we really couldn't take it south because it would have cost several times as much because you'd had to improve it all over the river. So we made it deep, and we took some land that could have gone south, north. So a couple of considerations there. On the Nave properties, what's their true benefit? One thing we looked at was the, cost to run his own system, a main. He had to run a new main himself, what would that cost? I looked at that and came up with 15-inch and 12-inch pipe. I estimated that with plastic pipe at $27,000. We also looked at the settling basin, that's the first pond. That's there to catch top residue and silt. The Nave property has the majority of the land that surface drains to that. So we looked at that factor, what portion of that pond would be attributable to runoff on the Nave property. Bottom line on that was that we'd estimate their share of the landowner's cost would be about $4,200. That's taking the cost of the pond, taking 25% of it, because that's what the landowners pay, and then taking the percent of their land that drains there. Gets it down to $4,203. So we arrived at the maximum that they should probably be paying at $31,203. It does not get it down anywhere near what Etler had, but the commissioners felt that this was a fair amount. So we took that dollar figure, we figured it backwards on how that would affect the units, so we adjusted the units on those parcels, and the parcels to the east of Naves that come over gravity-wise into the system. So we adjusted those parcels. Bottom line on it then, we didn't adjust the units or the benefit on the other parcels, but their cost would go up somewhat. And I think I figured about $8 an acre is the average increase on the balance. I got this to the commissioners, I heard back from Brent Keenest, I didn't hear back from Pat Hill. Brent said that this sounded like it met what we talked about in our discussion, and so he was okay with it. Keep in mind, this is an adjustment the board can make, or other adjustments, the board can make other adjustments. This is something we can justify.
Pat's behind you there.
Oh, okay. Oh, she did come in. Oh, okay, very good. I don't know if you wanted to say anything to
Yeah, I
that?
think I sent an email back.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I only went to Brent, I'm not sure.
Okay, okay.
Gary, you have a comment?
I don't know how you can figure a new main up through there. I already got my main and pattern tile. I'll never put in any more tile. Why are you figuring $27,000 for a new main?
Because if and when you have to replace that, that's what it would take. So,
Why would I have to replace it?
because it's 60 years old, I don't know.
The tile looks as good as new. Every place where you hit it accidentally, you did nothing but harm. They screwed it up, and then you're talking about me having to put in a new main? I don't foresee that ever happening.
Well, it's just a factor that we can use to...
I don't think you can use it.
Oh, yeah, the code is so general, it's the land getting the most benefit gets 100 points.
When you're going from one watershed, taking water into another watershed just to get to an outlet, it's just like Burl Creek years ago, they did the same thing. He fought it and he won. He didn't pay anything.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have to.
I don't know.
Rick, you just used that cost of a main tile system on that ground as something to get some figures from.
Yeah,
That's not to say that, you know, well, like Gary said, there is a system there in place, that's
Right.
fine. But you factored in that if there weren't, that was just for sake of comparison, if nothing else?
Yes,
It's
yes.
not,
And we are not to take into account other tile that's in there, because everybody has the right to put in all the tile they want.
correct.
So, we do use tile maps to figure out, okay, if they take the surface water a different direction than the ground, subsurface, we'll use the tile maps to determine that area and things like that. But what they have in the ground, it doesn't really count towards the benefit, or lack of benefit for the new system.
Right.
And that's,
Right, 'cause that could be up and down the line, so
oh,
to
yeah,
speak.
absolutely. And Gary's property, I think it was his dad did a lot of that. Yeah, they've done a good job.
Sure.
There. But the tile is, the new one's there's a riser there, they can hook into it, it's there if they ever want to hook in. Some of what Mansky put in was connected to it. It's there to use.
I told you when you put that new main in, do not hook any of my tile up, but right off the bat, you went right through my 20-foot main. If you'd done your homework, you could have eliminated that, and then from there on, I don't know how many tiles you hit.
Yeah, we've got tile, or we've got as-built plans that show us how many were hit, and where, how deep, what material, all of that.
Were they all reconnected
Yes.
into the new system?
And then, 2 parallel lines were run to connect, a lot of those to that riser, just to be sure there wasn't problem with settling and those tile laterals, being cut off. So, yeah, there was,
So
they
did
were
you
connected.
take into consideration Donletter's formula at all? Did you use this formula at all and see what would come up?
I've reviewed it all. It is a procedure that can be used, but I still came up with the 31,203.
Well, we have a recommendation from our, commissioners of reducing it from 40,000 down to 31,200.
Keep in mind, it was 51,000.
Yes, it was at 51, then it went down to 40, and now it's at 31,200.
Yeah.
Where was it gonna be with antlers?
10,000,
I believe, yeah, 10 something, I got it here.
10,277.83.
I don't know, if you're not gonna do any better than that, we're probably gonna be, it's just not right.
One other thing for discussion, Rick did touch on it. With that new system, it was taken into account, yes, it is deep there, but you made the explanation why it goes that direction, because of the cost savings for the district. This is a drainage district, there is risers, and, tell me for certain, I think you mentioned it, there's some tile hooked into that from Gary's property into those risers as we speak, correct?
Yes, correct.
There was one place that's hooked in, I didn't want it that way, I would've rather had it hooked into my old tile, but they didn't have any choice because their tile was in the way.
Have you since hooked anything into the risers that are available?
I will never hook into.
You never hook
tile,
into them?
period.
Really?
It's pattern tile now. It's
Oh.
a 24-inch cement tile, start now, and then it ends up an 8-inch. There's no sense, why I would ever think of hooking into that new tile, anybody.
The one thing about this district that is unusual is typically a watershed is everything that drains into it. Some of this land is on the backside of a hill where they had the big hill that they had to go through to drain the low area, and that's how his land got pulled into it, just mainly because the outlet was on that side. And I can see Gary's point, he didn't need it, didn't want it, but unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes, you get drug into these things.
And this also, the gist of the start of this project was ag drainage wall closures, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And Rick also touched on, as we do so often with these, huge dollar cost share because of the ag drainage wall closures
Yes.
to facilitate this project. So, I mean, not discount
But
that,
this
it still ends up being a lot of
This
money.
is cost after the 75% cost share, correct?
Correct.
Right,
Yes, yes.
right. So, but I mean, that's, the project and the direction and all of the business really initiated because of ag drainage wall closures.
Yes, correct.
Which, that's really basically state mandated to get those things closed, and this was a project to do that. From my, I guess, talking to folks and that, this particular project, I think was done very well, from the beginning to the end. And I know there's, you know, it's never perfect, and here we're at an example of that. But, it did accomplish the goal, and we don't wanna discount that. I think most folks were pretty happy to understand it's a mandated project, to get these wells closed and to put in a new tile system, and it's a good tile system. And, yeah, we do appreciate Gary's thought process that, well, I kinda got stuck here at the end of this, but, we've also addressed that, the commissioners have addressed it, and made a significant reduction because of that.
I just think when you have a big project like this, you've gotta get another opinion. You can't rely on one contract, you've gotta get two opinions. I just don't.
Well, I will entertain a motion to either accept it the way it is at the 40, at the 31.2 that the benefit commissioners recommended, or a dollar figure that the board member wants to make a motion to.
Well, having sat through what I felt was extremely good, honest, fair discussion with the commissioners, I appreciated the chance to be able to do that, and it was lowered with scientific research, if you will, by Rick and his associates. I would make a motion to, is it 31,000?
31,200 was their recommendation.
31,200 as recommended by the drainage commissioners.
Okay, I need a second on that.
I'll second that.
Second by Dave. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. You do have the right to appeal.
I gotta talk to Range.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on to DD number 6, main tile and branch B. Approved pay estimate number 6 to Nels Peterson Company. Okay, and then after that, we'll set the completion.
So this is it?
This,
Yep, they're completely finished out there. This pay estimate will pay everything but the retainage. And then when you set the completion hearing date, it's at that you'll formally accept it and,
So will this completion, does this already take into effect the patch on the road that they gotta fix, or is that
no, that's at the, secondary.
secondary roads cost?
Yeah,
Okay,
and that'll probably be done next spring.
right. But I didn't know if they figured that into the total cost of the project, or that just,
No,
well, how do you tear our road up and then we get hung with the bill?
that's,
it's kinda like
to the state.
when they dug a drainage ditch through our road and we have to pay for a bridge to cross it. Same theory.
yeah.
We don't have the drive-throughs anymore?
What was the dollar amount on that?
I like those.
What was the dollar amount on number 6?
They have $6,656.80.
Six?
$6,656.80, and it's at 100% completion. I think they've done a very good job out there.
They did. They had some battle with sand, and they were very professional about how they handled it, taking their time through, getting it to drain, putting rock where they needed to without getting excessive on the rock. No, very, very good project. Loved having them on the job.
I'll make the motion to accept the pay estimate number 6 for 6,656.86.
Second that motion.
Yeah, that was
80?
$6,656.80.
80, I was trying to give them a tip.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now we need to set a completion hearing date, time and date.
Means the new book.
This is for DD 6 also.
Tricia, I was thinking you looked at...
How far out do we need to go on?
Actually, the notice is pretty short on completion hearing. You have to, mail a notice to the people that you went through, whose ground you actually went through, and then you have to publish, in a newspaper, and just publish that you're having the completion hearing. You don't have to list names or anything. And the hearing can't be less than 10 days after the laborer goes to either the mailing or the publication. So
So we can get
Trish needs a little time to get it published and mailed, but then it can be just 10 days after
We
that,
have
so.
DD2 lateral M on the
Monday,
8th,
the
so
8th.
it's gonna be further than that out.
Yeah.
Go the 15th.
You need more time.
That'd be good.
15 or
15th
22?
would be good.
Remember, you got whole time in there. You wanna go 22?
It's up to you.
Yeah, that's fine, there's no rush on it,
No,
really.
no.
Just kidding.
Because there's nothing, there's not gonna be anything extenuating on this
I can't
completion
believe
area,
there
so.
is. We haven't heard from people as far as issues in the field. They did a great job in that yard they went
22?
through.
Sure.
Can't hardly tell that he went through that yard.
No,
So if we would actually go the 22nd, because it seems like between the first of the year and so on, there's probably gonna be some pretty lengthy agendas.
15th might be a holiday anyway.
Could be,
Yep.
probably not for us.
What time of day you wanna do that,
Courthouse.
Trish?
I know, it'd be 22nd?
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock on the 22nd. Okay, is that a motion from Carl?
I'll make that motion.
Second that.
Second by Eric, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, is there anything else for us from drainage? I know Eric went up and looked at something up there in section 21.
Yes, which one, it was
Russ
district.
Nave property.
Yes, that was, the drainage district tile goes into the dredge ditch on the north edge of property farmed by Russ Nave. It isn't on the property line, it is a little bit into their side of the field that they farm. It's, the tile is too shallow. Just by the lay of the land and looking at it, would not be probably particularly easy just to deepen the tile. I know we had this discussion a few weeks ago. They're more than aware where the tile is. It appears that it just needs to be fixed. So it'd be just a repair on this, tile because, and the fact that they do know where it is, get it fixed. There is an existing intake there that needs to be rebuilt in that same tile line. Possibly once that's all said and done, and then double check the condition of the tile when they're fixing it. The tile does work. There's no, but it's just broke in about 3 places, plus the old intake that needs to be repaired. Potentially maybe get a little bit of ground cover on that. Example, some dirt, just to cover where it is a little bit lower. Russ assured me they're very conscious of it. We'll stay off of it. There's no deep tillage, and we'll fix it and we'll maintain the system, so. It's a work,
Basically just a work order.
it's a work order. Trish and I visited, so that's something too that hopefully as soon as possible into next spring, it's, agreeable to get that taken care of.
Okay. Do you have anything for us, Rick?
I'll be coming back, to ask you to set bid date on, DD 35 branch C. It's, just north of town here.
Harlan Schultz and Stiles.
Yeah, so hopefully gonna try and bid that yet in January, probably be late January, but that's the plan, so.
Well, I still think we need to look at that down below by the, from the cemetery down to the highway, 'cause all that water's gonna come towards there, and all those trees that are growing up through there along that area.
Yes, that'd be a downstream area, I mean, you
But is
could-
that ours or is it the city's?
I talked to the city about that, and they said it's private property, so I don't know. I don't have any idea.
Yeah, there's no right-of-way through there. You could acquire right-of-way, we're going through that, in,
But it's not a natural stream, is it?
Parts of
Well,
it appear to be, I don't know.
It's a creek.
It wasn't officially part of DD 35
It
ever.
wasn't.
No,
Okay.
but you could acquire right-of-way for 35 and then be able to work in the right-of-way. That might be something to consider.
Well, I think it's been sold, but Jeff Michelson owned it at one time, or his aunt did, and then I think he sold it all to, if I'm not mistaken, to Jeff Birdie.
Oh,
Okay.
that over there across from LaGuardia, that
Yeah.
sandy area up
Yeah.
there, I think Jeff sold that, or his aunt sold it. I think Jeff Birdie has the
Okay.
property.
We should maybe look at that in the field again sometime, just,
Well, I mean, it's so thick back in there, the deer love it,
oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
but more water coming down through there and all them trees that are broken hanging across there.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd like to look at it again with you as far as area
Okay.
and where it makes sense to maybe annex, or not annex.
Well, up along the quarry,
Yep.
it's cleaned out, I think it's been cleaned out
Yes,
within the last 10 years, but down from the cemetery road down towards the highway is pretty
yeah,
trashy in there.
yes. And that's where you'd be looking at some right of way. In the upper area you were talking about, several years ago, it found a way to run into the quarry instead of down the
Right,
ditch.
well, when the water was so high, it
Yeah.
went over that.
Mhm. So, yeah, it needs some attention out there. It's a matter of what's the direction, best direction to take.
Okay, anything else for drainage?
One other thing, as far as, repair, and I think we had continued this, and it's in Drainage District number 33, with Alan Erickson's concern, did determine that there's a private tile draining a portion of his field that was damaged, probably, there's the probably thing, during the maybe initial exploration of the major big tile project that got put in there. So it is not right on the right-of-way part of the tile, the old tile or the new tile. It's just a little bit to the east. But it appears, and I've been out there 2 or 3 times and physically looked at it, that, there probably was some exploratory, they might have been in the wrong spot. They did nick this old 6-inch tile. He did determine that was broke, he did fix it. That is his concern of the drainage over to his wet area in his field. So, we had a visit, and this, I think, was kind of put on hold as far as additional crop damage, a little bit more of over an acre of crop damage from that tile being broke that he did fix, because we determined to go back to try to, it was a private tile, who actually broke it, it was not, we do not believe the contractor that installed the tile, we don't know who the engineering company had do the preliminary work. Rather than chase everybody's tail around for a small repair bill, he was agreeable to receive his little over acre extra damage and the crop damage and call it good. So we want to get that taken care of.
He fixed it at his
Good.
expense.
He fixed it at his expense.
Okay, I think that should be fine.
And then, we did have that discussion, if we could determine it, and that's what we determined, it is fixed. Yes, it does go into that tile system, but it wasn't caused specifically, as he had thought, by crushing or damage during the construction. So, we hadn't paid him on that crop damage, so we'll have to figure out a way to get that accomplished, and that hopefully will resolve this issue.
Yep.
It should be an agenda item in the future.
Yep,
Put it on drainage and get that
Yep.
taken care of.
okay.
Perfect.
All righty, nothing else, we'll take a motion to go out of drainage.
So moved.
The first and
I'll
second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're out of drainage. Is there any more people out in the hallway?
Maybe you got,
I think we should ride up the courtroom. I'm gonna slip up the courtroom here.
downstairs might be open.
Mark Woodland called you, I heard. He called me and we visited. He says, I've already called and talked to Dave. Okay.
Yeah, I got a call from, him, and I got a call from,
Rick went to see about the courtroom.
Okay, I was gonna say, do you want chairs brought in, or?
Well, I
Or
think
do
there's
you want
more
to-
than what we have.
Okay.
Well, both rooms are busy. Courtroom's busy, downstairs busy. What's
How many you got up?
We'll bring as many chairs as we can.
Well, that's my point so far.
Twenty.
I'll have one, two out there that says,
You get part of them seated.
They need to research it before they say, I don't care. We having a short recess, right?
Yeah, we'll take a short recess, so we'll get some chairs in here.
No, you were very pleasant and, yes, level effort again. What are we gonna do?
I'll print on there.
Everybody are here.
Well, most courtrooms are busy.
They're still going on now. Okay.
I'll leave and somebody can have my chair.
yeah.
I'm on here.
You can't leave.
Oh, come on.
Down. All the way down to the very end. You'll have to be careful backing up.
Yep, well, that's the way.
All right, let's move those over here, Rick, because we can pull stuff from outside
Oh, okay.
in here.
Never thought of that part.
Radio man doesn't need a chair.
No, no. Next thing, the board's gonna want to remodel the courthouse and get a bigger meeting room.
Bigger room.
Just hit you, Brandon.
Well, like it is, we might have to.
Neighbors. You get kinda excited broadcasting the ball games. I like to listen to that.
What?
You do a good job on the ball games.
Oh, did you listen Friday night?
You bet.
They didn't play too hot.
You make it sound
Over
good.
in front.
Yeah.
Nathan's having snacks over here.
You can stay back in there.
Yeah, I'll just sit back there, they can go front.
So, come on in.
Well, keep some out there. Oh, well. One on the hillside said, let me.
We got a few seats back here in the corner.
These are the $5 seats over here, though.
They get the free ones, they get the free ones?
Bonnie said you went back there, brother. Bonnie,
Morning.
nobody wants to sit with you?
Back there, one up here.
Stephen, how are you?
About maxed out. We got room here. Yeah, you can slide together a little bit.
I just pick it on you a little bit.
You got a tablet? Are you gonna sign?
I think we should.
Yeah.
Got one more seat up in front here. Or two.
One or two there.
You want through there? Straight back there. Cheers for everybody here?
They pick the other tablet and have rest on the signers and the rest.
We might have to leave. The room won't be there.
Breathe down, Rick's neck.
He probably needs that.
Yeah.
You want to sit over here?
No, I'm all right.
Who wants you to sit on this lap?
Got one more chair in here, Sheriff.
I'll just stand out here.
You gonna protect us?
Wow.
No, he's probably here to stir it up, too.
I would hope to get that bed.
Been blowing the last couple of weeks, don't know if you need windmills to get the wind blowing. Right. That's real occurring there.
Well, if they were, you could invest in them. If I invested in it, the wind would stop, just like that.
Is that along the same lines of you winning the lottery?
Sure.
That's not going too good either.
So I keep telling them down at CFR that if I ever win the lottery, I'll help
which I know
build
is
buildings,
an honest-to-God true statement, but it's just that you're not winning the lottery very fast.
Right, and there's so many people in line, it's probably be $0 by the time.
No,
you're
he'd
done.
get to them first, 'cause he's made that comment, but, yeah.
And a animal shelter.
Yeah, some to the animal shelter.
Yep.
Probably some to community development.
It'll be cozy.
And several kids.
I don't know, yeah, those are.
There's probably a lot of people who do that. If they want to lie. Probably.
Where do you get scratch the window?
And winning the lottery, probably not a good time.
No, what we're talking about is now he's.
So, I hope he does.
I
hope
know.
he does. I really do.
Okay, I think we got everybody back here.
Uh-oh.
Forgot something?
I grabbed what I was working on, not my agenda.
What do you need? Let's go get it.
I have a packet of stuff clipped together on my desk, that's
On your
my
desk?
agenda, yeah. I grabbed my valuation stuff I was working on instead.
We're passing around a pad, just put down your name and township would be good enough, just so we know where everybody's located in the county, where they're coming from, and even if they're out of the county, I don't know. Looks like nobody isn't, but, as board members, we have not been approached by anyone formally. Alyssa's been approached by companies. This is the fourth time companies have come to Humboldt County to talk about wind energy. From the meeting they had at Rustics, a month or two ago, it's progressed a little further the way it sounds. And we wanted to get it out to the public, just so everybody's aware of what is going on, because I don't want the impression that we're trying to slide something under the table, you know, 'cause, we have had no involvement in it as of yet. We've talked about our, wind turbine ordinance from 2009, or whenever it was written. We feel it needs to be updated some, because things have changed since then. And we just put this open forum out there to invite the public to come in and, get your opinions. We'll let you know what we know, which is a whole lot. Actually, like I say, we haven't talked to anybody. So, well, you probably know more than we know, actually. Landowners have probably been contacted, and, so that's where it sits right here. And we're gonna allow, 2 minutes per person who wants to speak on it. Try to keep it to that, because there is quite a few people here. Pro, con, I know the board members have all been very active, reading materials, talking to other counties, talking to farmers, people in town. Whenever I get the chance, I ask people, what's your opinion? What do you think? Because, this is a big change to the community. It is a, good tax base for the county, which does lower property taxes for everyone in the future. 'Cause if you can gain revenue from somewhere else, you don't have to raise property taxes, so that's something to consider also. I know there's, a lot of people who are for it and some are against it, and we're here to listen, I guess.
Okay, to help me in taking minutes, if you could state your name when you get up to speak. I do know that Bob and Lonnie Larson had contacted me and said that they were interested in speaking, but that's the only two. So I don't know if you want to start with them?
Yeah, Bob, would you like to start? Or Lonnie?
And then she looked back to him.
Just stand and...
And please let me know if you're for or against, so I know which side to put you on here.
We're against it.
Okay?
So,
Whatever you're ready.
I lived in Beaver Township most of my life. I've lived at our present location, Lone Tree Road in Beaver Township for 27 years, is when we bought the property there. We missed the meeting at Rustics, so coming into this a little late. But I have researched the EON website, and according to the information that they have on their website, they list 16 projects, wind farms. And they have a page that's what landowners can expect. And one of those things that I found fairly concerning was real estate agreements. work with landowners to reach a lease agreement. Once agreements are secured, then they begin the other processes. So number 2 was wind assessment, number 3 was transmission, number 4, don't know how long it takes to get to all those steps. But number 4 was design, permitting, and real estate review. And this is a quote. "This is when we begin designing the wind farm. It is at this stage we can tell you how many turbines we will install on your land." Well, to me, that's concerning. That sounds like giving a blank check with a signature. So you already locked yourself into a lease agreement, and you don't even know how many wind turbines might be put on your ground. Of the 16 projects that they have listed, they included pictures. Again, these are pictures that they provided. It appears that where these projects are, the landscape is quite barren, desolate, not the kind of landscaping property that we're talking about in the 4 counties that have been targeted. The townships. And I'm curious as to why our 4 townships have been targeted. But the landscaping that shows on their pictures is not like what we have in the 4 townships. It doesn't show residences. There's not much evidence of it being used as a place where families are living, working, and supporting their communities with tax revenue of another kind, where they're developing and building up their locations in their homesteads. If we're talking about just tax revenue, there's an offset to what the wind turbines might bring. You know, looking again at their own statistics, out of 15 wind farms that they list here, where they included numbers of turbines, they ranged from a high of 305 per project to 196, and if we take the average, that's 125.
We got about 30 seconds, so.
Okay, and some of the turbines they list, this is their number now, are 427 feet in the air. That seems almost unreal. So, to close, I know there's at least 2 sides to the coin. One is money, but there are some things that are more precious than just dollars. And dollars are disposable. The other that's more important is a lifetime, generations, is what it does to your landscape. Thanks for offering this opportunity that we can be heard.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm good.
Anyone else wanna? Okay.
I'm Gary Keenest, I live out in Beaver Township. First off, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for not making a knee-jerk reaction of get a moratorium or anything like that. I know you've got a ordinance about windmills, windmill generation. I think that came about from individuals wanting to put up their own several years ago and restricting how they were put up, where they were put up by individuals. I was at the meeting at the rustic, left a lot of questions in my mind. I left my name and number, and I haven't been contacted back. I haven't signed anything yet. And whether I do or not, I don't know. It depends upon a lot of the, things about it. I've talked to others that have at it. I've talked to a realtor from Ida County just last week at the farm show in Fort Dodge. And she said that in Ida County, it did not affect the value of the land at all, and actually, in some cases, improved it as far as it goes. I think it's important for the county, not just for the tax base, but there's a lot of family farms in this county. And a lot of, the way the economy is, it's gonna take some outside income to keep some of these family farms going. And I think to leave that option available to us is important. So when you write your ordinance, be sure, you can write it, and you can make it so restrictive that nobody can ever come into the county, without even saying it's a moratorium, just by the restrictions you put on it. But I think it's important that you protect the county right-of-ways, the tile systems, that type of thing, and the language you put in there. Some of the things they've talked about is increasing the size of the intersections, where they're gonna be having to travel. I think Bruce with his long trailer can testify to the fact that we need some of them anyway. But, so there's many things you can do in that ordinance, but protect the county, the interest in that. But leave it open so the landowners can make their own decision on their own property, what they want to do. Don't don't hamstring us, don't stop us. You know, the windmills are a lot better than a hog setup. You don't have, you know, people talk about the noise and things like that. I've been around a lot of the windmills, I've talked to people all the way from Pipestone, Minnesota, where I used to have my territory, that had windmills right close to their farms and never had to deal with the sound, so. I just, you know, there are a lot of tree huggers out there, as I call them, that have been throwing, down by Boone, just a couple of months ago, a bunch of dead rabbits around the base of a windmill to try and attract birds to there so that they could hit by the windmill and kill the, you know, false negatives about the windmills. But I appreciate what you're doing, just keep it up.
Gary, which side are we on, pro, con, undecided?
I'm neutral.
Neutral.
At this time.
I'm just gonna call that neutral.
Yeah.
I just have a question. You mentioned the project at the Fort Township. What went on at that meeting that was talked about?
Well, I never got a letter, but I went just 'cause I wanted to be there and hear it. From my understanding, and Alyssa, you weren't there either, were you? No. But from my understanding is, like Lonnie mentioned, there are several processes to go through, like 4 different steps. But they kind of run together. So it's not like we do one step, then we move on to the next, and then we move on to the next. They all kind of run together. But it is like a 7-year process before they can be built even, or until they're up and running, put it that way. They have their exploratory, they sign leases. If they get enough leases signed in a general area, that is probably where the wind farm would go. It's really up to the landowners if this is gonna happen or not. Because if the landowners don't sign leases, they're not gonna go there. And that's who really is gonna determine whether this project goes on. Like Gary said, I don't think it's the job of the county to tell people what they can do with their land. I think we should oversee it somewhat so it doesn't get abused. But we don't have the right to tell you what you can or cannot do with your land, I don't feel.
Rick, one of the things of why they picked those 4 townships is the power line.
Yeah, the transmission line out here east of town is...
That's the big thing, that access to that.
And, that was probably the main reason, and also it's really windy over that way, we all know that, right?
Only when you talk.
Transmission lines, I've been on the board, 10, 12, 14, it's too long anyway. About 10 years ago, we were inquiring of why we can't get these things, and they told us that time we didn't have transmission lines, we couldn't get it out of here. So evidently that's been resolved. You had the first contact with us, maybe, where'd this come about, Melissa?
Yeah, so I'll echo David, I don't necessarily do townships, but there's an area, let's call it a pocket, that has been identified, Carl's correct, in my 8 years, 4 times, this time number 4, as an area that could support a wind project. In the past, we didn't have the transmission. So probably about 8 years ago, the supervisors did ask me why we couldn't have wind, and that was the reason. And so, in my opinion, Alyssa's opinion, with the addition of the transmission lines, that's what has made these projects go a little bit further. So to, I think David's question, we call it fatal flaw, but in the very beginning, there's what's called a fatal flaw test before anything's ever developed, to make sure that that area passes the fatal flaw test. If it does, then it, as Rick said, it moves forward. So to your question, this area was identified as it passed the fatal flaw test, and has always been identified. This same pocket, like I said, this is my 4th time at this, so that helps.
Yeah, I don't know on that sheet of paper, did we have them write down whether they're for or against on it?
No, we'll keep track of that.
Oh, you're gonna keep, yeah. Why don't we just pass it backwards around and let them sign, you know, for or against, and just, I probably should have that written on there the first time. Any other comments from anyone?
Pat?
Pat?
Here's
Would you mind passing these to me, guys?
Pat, are you on the for, against, or neutral?
Yeah, again.
Okay?
Okay.
So this is a petition that a lot of people couldn't be here today, some of them are going for Christmas. But we're not asking you to say against it, we just want, I'd like to see you look at Cassuth County's ordinance, maybe, and to have a little bit more protection for our county. And you know we have more county tile and private tile than any of the larger counties out here. So what is 100 tons of
One for each of you guys.
You know we have a gold mine of drainage projects out there in the county. And like I said, I feel you should look at Cassuth County's ordinance for wind turbine project and get something similar like that passed soon, so things can be distributed.
Some extras.
We as a county do not have to be forced to do anything. I like the accountability they have for the future and what's in the right. A few things that really caught my attention was we need better setback distances like they have, an escrow type account that is set up in favor of the county in an amount no less than the total estimated net renewable restoration cost as determined by a qualified third party at the time the project is completed, and remains in effect until decommissioning is completed. And no transfer, assignment, or sale of project unless approved by the Board of Supervisors to make sure new company is financially secure, because I know that does happen. They get it and then they sell it. And if they borrow at anything in this ordinance, do we really want them in our county? We're not saying yes or no, we're just trying to give them some, trying to protect ourselves for our future. Just a side note, all three trustees and myself from Beaver Township have all signed this against it. I guess I've lived out in Beaver Township for 63 years, and I love the peace and tranquility, and I'm hoping that will not be a thing of the past. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Doug?
That power line you're speaking of.
Okay, which, pro, con, neutral?
I would be against.
Okay.
That power line you're speaking of comes through my property. And everything that they say will get done does not always get done. Secondly is they work 365 days a year when they start working, so be ready for trenches. And that ground will not come back into production in a couple of years. I have some pictures to prove it, and I've sent those pictures off to the people who built the power line, which is also a private outside investor. That power line is Warren Buffett, okay? These guys, it's a private outside investor. When do they come to these areas? When the farm economy's tough and you're looking for an extra dollar, they get you to sign over your easements. Those easements are permanent. Once it's there, they decide to remodel it, they will come in and remodel it. You have no say. As far as, we do not have that engineer anymore, but how many driveways are we gonna need built on these, gravel roads? If they are, if they're that safe, why are they not being built in the line of the power line or, along roads? They're set back into the fields. The other aspect, they get tax incentives from the federal government. They get kickbacks as a private individual to build these. They're funded by the federal government, okay? Who pays taxes to the federal government? Anybody in here? So not only the money you're getting for putting them in there, you paid money to give that back to yourself if you put them on. We subsidize those as the government. They're not the cheapest energy available. I don't understand why they aren't following some other types of energy. Your hydroelectric is way more economically feasible. We have flooding now, why don't we put dams in? But my big question, they're not going up in the national parks, they're not going up in the BLM ground. There's a reason for that. The federal government doesn't want them on their property, and I don't think the county wants them in the right-of-ways of the road too bad. So why are they going out into the fields? Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
I'm done.
Anyone else?
Tom Wilson, I'm in the Beaver Township also, and,
Tom, are you for, against?
Against.
Okay.
We moved here from Kansas 6 years ago for my work, and in Kansas, we had 40 acres, which I sold once we found 15 acres here. Not that the cost offset was terrible.
Was it even trade, was it?
It was. So the property here is very valuable, and I understand that. But the research that I've done, the people that I've talked to, took the wife out near a wind farm, because 1,500 feet is barely over a quarter mile. And we were on the side of the highway, far more than 1,500 feet from a large wind turbine, on about a 15 to 20 mile an hour wind day. And they said in the meeting in Rustics that it is barely louder than a refrigerator running in your house. Well, sitting in the truck, it was the gearbox howling and the blades whipping, far more noisy than that. And we drove up under it, and I don't know, maybe there was something wrong with this one, but it was really loud. And my wife has health issues, and the reason we bought our property out here was for peace and quiet. I mean, you save your whole life to be able to build your final house, you know, someplace quiet, with nice scenery. And with her migraines and fibro and other health conditions, all the research I showed is gonna be a serious issue. So, I mean, if you guys do decide to go forward with the wind farms, I feel 1,500 feet is not nearly enough. Double that might be acceptable, but when I look around our sections, there's houses on all four corners. And as we drive around the county, we see more situations where I don't think they're gonna wanna put one here out in the middle of this field and one there out in the middle of this field. There's got to be, like he said, much more places where there's, more open ground. I mean, you know, like I said, I have to reference that to like western Kansas, where there may not be a farmstead for 50 sections of ground, and a wind farm is not an issue, because they are a mile from the nearest residence. And that's my biggest concern, along with the property values. All of the Iowa realtors that I researched where wind operations have come in, all the small 5 and 10 acre farmsteads, the property values have gone down at resale. And that's really all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, Paul?
Paul Marion Anderson. We are for.
Okay.
We see no reason why they shouldn't farm the wind in our area. Farmers have been using wind power since the 1900s. It used to be about every quarter mile somebody had a windmill on their farm to pump water. That's before electricity came into effect. In fact, even before the RECs came into existence here, that's what even generated power. So this isn't a new technology, it's just a bigger technology to serve more people than with the farmsteads. But what we're really against is that local government micromanaging the farmers, the landowners. So if it isn't against state and federal law, why would the local government micromanage the landowners? If they don't want it, they don't get it. It isn't an eminent domain issue where they're forcing you into anything. It's just a choice. And if you do this with wind power, what happens when solar power? What happens if I want to put a solar farm on our farm? Are you going to micromanage that too and say, no, we don't want the land used as solar cells? I mean, it's this micromanaging and stuff. So you'll hear a lot of pros and cons. You can get on the internet, Google it. You'll see all the pros, you'll see all the cons. If any project, there always is pros or cons. You know, it's just the weight of it that determines what should be done. So And I think it's sparse in Vernon Township. Now, this isn't where they're talking about it right now, but I tell you, the population is so sparse that, you wouldn't have to worry about, setbacks from neighboring residents, because there isn't any in our area. And, so, but that is one thing to consider as a setback, I have to admit. I don't think you should put one next to a residential, a neighboring residential area, but that's basically all I got.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I'll stay on the pro side of wind energy.
Steven.
Steve Sanford.
Steve Sanford, sorry.
She couldn't see who you were.
Don't have eyes in the back of her head, huh?
Yeah.
But, yeah, we've done quite a little researching since, Hugh is with, the Eon company, and he's...
Don't shoot.
I've talked to him several times, and, another, manager from Chicago stopped to our farm and visited with me and my wife, and, we didn't know anybody that lived by one, farmed around one, so we went over south of Clarion and met two farmers. The first one that we met was extremely pro. His aunt's on the ground, he's a tenant, didn't have any complaints about farming around him. You get used to it. Compaction is an issue, can be a long-term issue. Tile lines are an issue and can be a big nuisance, but they can be overcome. The second farmer that we met was extremely against it. Compaction was his biggest concern, tile issues. Neither of them had anything to say about wind noise or generator noises. They didn't have any complaints about that. It was strictly farming, and as far as the view, the first farmer that was still for it had an issue with the view, the shadows that come off.
The flicker.
Yeah.
Or flash, they call them.
And he was watching a football game or something in the afternoon on a Sunday, and the shadow was going on. Once he figured it out what it was, oh, okay, it's there, no big deal. It annoyed him for a little bit, but he wasn't concerned after that. And I guess, as far as the contract, we've read it thoroughly. Setbacks, maybe you could stretch them a little bit farther, but most everything that we have seen in it, I don't have a problem with. We've also been to a few of the towers and drove right up to them. I guess I didn't think the noise issues was a big issue. Maybe the ones I was at were newer, better condition or something, I don't know, but I didn't think the noise issue was a concern.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Well, I appreciate everybody coming. And like I say, visit with us, call us, talk to us with your concerns. We're gonna have to pound out something here in the next few days and weeks, I'm sure. I guess that's our job. We gotta look out for the entire county. Carl?
Rick, I don't know what I'm for or against, but I happened to be down at Rustic's meeting that day, and 3 or 4 days later, we had a district supervisor meeting in Charles City. And there's 22 counties up there, and one of the topics, we go around and we beat this horse pretty good, as far as windmills and hog plants and this kind of thing. And every one of the supervisors there, without exception, said you had naysayers to start with. But after they got them up, they was pretty happy, mainly because of the income stream, diversification. And they said as far as damage to the tile and to the roads and to those kind of things, the new contracts took care of that. He said also they'd take it down 4 foot below ground level, there's a bond to pay for that if it ever happened. That's just some information those guys tell me. I moved over here from Sac County 25 years ago. They went through this fight over there, and I know a lot of farmers there are very much opposed to them, but their neighbors have them, so there's pros and cons on both sides.
Linda, do you have any comments?
No, I'm neutral on it, and just, I'll do what I have to do if they go through.
Okay.
They are good, they do bring in a lot of tax revenue. According to the other counties that I've visited with, they help out a lot in the revenue part of it.
There's one county up there, and I can't tell you which one, Mitchell or one of the counties said that all their road revenue comes from windmills. I don't know whether, I don't know which county it was, I didn't pay that much attention, but verify what Linda said.
Yes, that's true. Some of the counties do, all the revenue goes to the road. Now, if that's the case, I want some come to my office. I don't want it to go to all the roads, but...
Ben started smiling when you said
Yeah,
that.
I know.
The negative things I heard up there they said the landowners were pretty much favor. The tenants didn't like it because the landowners got the money and the tenants had to farm around it. So there's pros and cons both sides.
Absolutely.
My brother told me this morning, I talked to him, and he said down in Boone, down in the Ogden area, they just put up 100 in there. You just signed a contract to put another 100 down there. So, if you've been down in that area, I hauled some corn from over by Dow's, and they were redoing some of those along Highway 69, and you could tell the ones that they were gonna redo, 'cause they'd pull in and they'd widen the driveways. And then, you know, the one crane sitting on one side of the highway, they're working on it, and then they come and tear the crane down and haul it across the street, or across the highway. So, they're very careful by not tearing up the roads, whatever, but they widen the roads, or the corners, to make the easier for the access, for the bringing those blades and turbines in and whatnot, so, I have another brother-in-law over in Alta, they got 100, they look out their back window. He said he can count 100, and he lost track of, needed more toes and fingers after that, and they've been there for 25 or 30 years, so I'm not for or against. We're not trying to micromanage anybody, but we're trying to figure out what's the best. We have a lot of tile in the ground. We want to make sure that if it did go through, that we would have the ability to say, well, that tile was broke, it was running before this happened. We don't want to be standing here holding the bag, so that's the reason we went with the public forum.
Everything gets bigger with time too, like for instance, that power line that come through, I had originally a 60-foot easement, now it's 180-foot easement, I think. And you said eminent domain doesn't come in? Little old me didn't have anything to say about what they did.
I was involved in that power line also.
Yeah.
And I saw the easement, and they'll guarantee if anything goes wrong with that tile, they'll fix it. No time limit.
Well,
And they also put
They didn't
bridges.
come seed my grass back in.
Well, actually, they did on ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did seed it back. And, they put bridges over the tile. I identified where the tile was, they put bridges over it to get their heavy machinery. So I had different experience.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming. It was very informative. We got the petition, there really isn't a petition or whatever it is there with a lot of signatures on it, so we'll look at that. And, like I said, we've already visited a lot with a lot of counties around us. We're gonna do our very best to protect the county infrastructure. I really feel that's our main goal, is to protect our roads and our grading systems. I really think it's up to the landowners to talk with your neighbors, visit with them, and, I think that'll be the deciding factor, really, if this project goes forward. It's really in the landowner's hands. Sure, we could write up an ordinance that it's gotta be a 2-mile setback. We'll never ever have anything, but I don't know if we'll do that. I don't know if we have the, Steve?
Sorry, I did, We did have, my wife and I, went up to a lawyer in Algona who has this, he has farming also and a family farm with wind energy on it. And, he, read the contract thoroughly and went back through it with us. And, as far as the contract, before you say everything's bad about it, you really should read the contract and take it to a lawyer if you want, if you so need to. We did, and in his words, it's one of the best contracts in wind energy he's ever read, and he's read a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good thing for the financials for a landowner. It isn't so good for the tenant who has to farm around him, but also if the landowner's getting revenue off that, he doesn't have to jack his cash rent up, probably as much as he would like to. Hopefully they won't. But, 'cause it's all about cash flow for farmers. It's a diversified income also. Something that will be there every year, whether it rains or doesn't rain.
So they bury the lines from the windmills to the transition line? Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're buried.
So if you want a tile, you gotta have more flags out there so you don't, you can't dig.
I think it's in the contract how deep they put them.
37,000. Is that in the right of way, or is that on private property?
On private property. It's all written in the contracts. I briefly looked at a contract, and it's pretty extensive.
It gets pretty tough to go out and put in tile, you gotta have, treat fiber optics.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the ground already.
Do they have, okay, now, for instance, on my fences, I have hot wires that try and hold my cattle in. They come out and put resistors on my fences. They said, well, what? Well, stray voltage, static electricity or stray voltage. So they actually ground my fences. I said, well, I ain't gonna keep the cattle. Well, you need these on there because you don't wanna step over without it, because if there is stray voltage, it could shock you, kill you, you know. So I don't know what they involve. I had Aaron Cran come out and he checked it out for me, and he says, well, they must be working because he ain't finding any stray voltage. But, there are some concerns about, you know, pipelines leak, electricity could stray.
Yeah.
So,
there's a negative to, there's a possibility of something bad happening with everything.
Well, obviously, like Rick said, thanks for everybody for coming. So we see by the presence of people here, we see by petitions signed, there's huge concern in this. And I mean, we're tasked as the Board of Supervisors we do need an ordinance. We absolutely have got to get one, and we need to get it sooner than later. It's kind of difficult because, yes, it's not eminent domain, it's not saying yes or no, but we're also tasked, when we talk about the infrastructure to look out for, that's true. Roads, tiles, all that sort of thing. But what we're really elected to do, and why we're here, is to look after the people that live in the county. So, we better take that into consideration first and figure that goes along with protecting everything else. Our sole biggest purpose is to look after the people. So, I mean, that's the roads, that's the tiles, that's all that, to make their life as quality as possible, as stated by a lot of these folks.
well, they are gonna go on a minimal number of people's property.
Well,
compared to the...
Well, I hope as we sort through this ordinance business as a Board of Supervisors, that we come to something that, is way more effective than what we have. And I appreciate everybody doing their due diligence, particularly the people in this room, pros or cons, but I believe this is something that requires further research before you sign on any dotted line anywhere, before the county says, oh, we just would love to have all of this stuff in our county. We want to have something to give us more time. And a lot of folks in here, yes or no, have done some research, and I think a little bit more needs to be done, and we certainly, appreciate everyone's input along the line, because we're doing our research as a board. But I expand on Rick's thing, the infrastructure, yes. But to me, infrastructure includes the people that live here. And I, for one, will never forget that as I work through getting these things into place.
I have one thing I'd like to add. You know, we all live here, but we have owners that don't live here. And to them, it looks like a paycheck. And they can get money off of their land, but they don't have to live here with them. You know, it's,
Just like a hot house or a
Yeah.
cattle shed.
Well, and I think Lonnie put it very succinctly, there is more than just money. There's a carrot, you know, and sometimes you chase the carrot, and sometimes when you get a hold of it, something bad might happen. So, there is more than money, yes. We do look after the money in the county as well, and that's always a factor. So that is the side here and the side there, but there's a lot of things that we need to factor in as we move forward with this, and I really appreciate everybody's input and concern. Either way, at this point, to put things like this together, to be here in person, that means a lot. And obviously, there is interest and concern, and we do not take that lightly moving forward.
Okay, anyone else before we move on?
Anybody in the hallway out there?
Oh,
John?
thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
and thanks for not coming in and waving signs and bullhorns.
They're in the pickup.
Do you know where Rick lives?
Yeah.
You can go out and petition right by his driveway.
A lot more will get accomplished positively without riots, demonstrations. Do we need to have the sheriff here? Do we need to call in the SWAT team? Honest, open discussion is gonna be way more productive than riotous discourse situations. So this is nice, this is why we're here, it's peaceful assembly.
Yeah,
And that's
but
what
we're
it's
Iowa.
about. Well, there's some people, there might be people that live in Iowa that aren't quite as peaceful. Well, this is very good though, to see everyone's
We appreciate it.
participation.
Do you wanna take a break while they,
Yeah, we'll
unless
take
they're
a
gonna
little
stay
break
with
while
us
we
and
get
play
the-
the rest of the morning?
Unless you guys wanna sit through our rest of our boring meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wanna take a 5-minute break quick?
Yeah.
Thanks.
We're not gonna be able to get out anyway.
Oh, I'm not going anywhere.